Egypt, the Supreme Council of Antiquity, and then I just saw that these cooperation projects, these huge amounts of money, institutional cooperation, grants, all those words. And for someone who comes from, art and culture sector where we barely learn what's a budget. I mean, I think the first time of my life I saw, I've been in front of putting a budget. I was over 30 years old. And I very quickly felt powerless, because at that time I'm talking many years ago, there was like the big financial or consulting company were not actually, at that time, there were not that many specialized in the art. So those big projects usually are like technically built, and the grant, the project, etc., built and led by a private consulting company, which core mission was not really art and culture. And I really felt the danger there, and sense of, if we don't learn that, we quickly become completely just executor, just service provider. We won't be the one who propose the solution, who propose the ideas. So I quickly said, this is a skill that I need to learn. This is a knowledge that I need to master if I want to defend my sector. So I changed my career very quickly into fundraising. I do a lot of work around the world for big organizations as a fundraiser, but working not necessarily in the art, because at that time, like I'm talking 2006 and 7, so at that time when, until now, my father doesn't even understand what's fundraising. There was no teaching opportunity for people from a global south that are accessible. Even in French, I remember the first time the profession of a fundraiser in general was like introduced in the métier, the corpus of profession in France. I think it was 2009 or 10. So the closest to teaching, to learning fundraising was in the UK or in US, and it was way beyond my financial capacity. So I decided to work for those who does that, at least, and learn by doing. Instead of having, a certification or a master. And I opted to do an MBA because it was the closest to that. And very quickly also through my career, I realized that, at the beginning, my understanding was, okay, resources is grant. Okay, let's go for grants. And I learned to do grants and mastered the technique at high level. But the more I progress in my knowledge and on my work, the more I realized that we need resources and enlarge the meaning of what's a resource. So I extended my understanding of what I mobilize as a resource to many other resources beyond the grant. Could be technical assistance, mentoring, it could be in kind, it could be sharing and maximizing resources. And this is how after a certain number of years, I said, that's enough. I learned enough. And I came back to Tunisia and found Culture Funding Watch, CFW, which sole mission is really to work on 3 pillars, because we realize that as a sector, there are 3 main barriers, at least from the perspective of Global South, to accessing resources. One is access to information. So we share information on our platform, which is now one of the biggest, like the one-stop shop, if you want to find the opportunities and funding information in the MENA and Africa region. And then we know that it's not enough to know there is a call. You still need to know how to do a resource mobilization strategy, know how to write a proposal, know how to engage with your investor, how to advocate for your work, all those skills around resource mobilization. So we do that. We do both. Either we offer our services and all those things, but also we do capacity building, because we just realized that there is not enough professionals specialized in resource mobilization for the art, at least in my ecosystems, and that we need, as much as we need professional producers, professional distributors, we need professional musicians, we also need professional resource mobilization people if you want really to support the sector. And then the third, which is the dearest of my heart, we say, it's good to know there is a call, it's good you are at Einstein in fundraising, but all this is useless if there is no one that is willing to support the sector, to invest in the sector, to subsidize the sector. So we have the third pillar around advocacy, influencing, donor engagement, and we work that through research, through advocacy actions, through also creating those spaces where we convene, we facilitate the connection and the meetups between those who support the art and those who work in the art. So these two worlds can dialogue with each other, can try to discover and understand the constraints and the need of each other. So very quickly, this is what we did with, the idea behind CFW. And then gradually, we also is part like from research and development, because that's also a part where we do advocacy. We vulgarize the new strategies, tools, and methodologies on resourcing for the arts. And one of the things that we started with thinking of, okay, what are the alternative other resources that you can work on? What can we do? How can we use okay, answer the question. What are the skills? Before I bring to that, okay, the most important skills that you need to have when you are a resource mobilization professional is two things, I would say: ethics and mastering the sector, knowing what you're talking about. The ethics is very important because it's about the mindset, and it's about the knowledge and the expertise that you're going to transmit, or the advice that you're going to give to your client or the people you're supporting. So the ethics is important in terms of it has to be clear in the mind of a good, for me, a professional resource mobilization expert, is that those resources are just a mean and never an end in itself. You have to this in mindset, because if you don't have this in the mindset, your job become bringing money and not taking your client or the people you support to sustainability. And these are two different mindsets, because when your motivation is just getting money, most of the cases you will be a grant hunter, and you will be making very bad choices because you will not manage the brand risk, the consistency. You will advise people to take the money of anybody. For example, you could have someone you're supporting, they work on eco-friendly or climate change issues. And then if your only problem is to bring money, you may be there advising them to accept money from oil companies, which is absolutely inconsistent, unacceptable, and even in terms of resource mobilization, a suicide. Because, come on, who's going to fund you again or support you when you see that you're taking the money of one of the most polluted polluters in the ecosystem? So that's one, the number one pillar is really ethics, because you will not only impact yourself, but you're going to impact the people you are supposed to support. The second skill, I said, so ethics, and I would love another one I forgot, is also the, knowing the sector. You really need to know. You cannot, we have a proverb in Arabic, it says, فَقِدُ الشَّيْءِ لَا يُعْطِيهِ, meaning that the one who is missing this thing, he cannot give it or transmit it. So if you don't know what you're talking about, you cannot convince people in front of you. And our sector became more and more professionalized. So in the other side of you, sitting, whoever you're approaching for whatever type of support, he's probably someone who knows what he's talking about. So you cannot convince him if you are making mistakes about what you're advocating, budgeting, the needs, the costs, because the person in front of you is not only about believing in your idea, but he's also about assessing, because the evaluator, what does an evaluator look for when he's assessing project or when he's reading a sponsorship request? He's assessing two things mainly. First is the alignment of whatever grant making or support strategy or giving strategy he is following, or and the second is the feasibility of what you are proposing. So if you are proposing a nice idea, but you don't really master its cost, how it's done, what it needs to be happening, you will fail largely in feasibility, and then you will not get granted or supported or sponsored. So these are very important. And the thing I would say also, then the extra stuff is, of course, you have to be someone who's able to simplify, make things clear, make things accessible to the reader, how to say, enthusiasm them. Like, honestly, if I can say, the most gifted fundraiser I know is those who carry the thing in their guts, because people feel it when you really believe in the idea you're selling. So you have to believe in what you're also what you are doing and what you are fundraising for. So that's my answer to the professional. Then now, so when we started gaining professionalism, and we're learning, like CFW, I think we're not that many organization like mine on the continent or in the MENA region. So I came at the beginning with my knowledge, the fundraising, the big organization. I worked for big names. But of course, I had to adapt those tools or those knowledge to the sector. And I was learning myself, like I ended up by myself developing new tools, new approaches that are adapted. But very quickly, I realized it because, again, I come from ecosystems where the resources are really scarce and sometimes inexistent. So we have to be very creative about how we mobilize resource. And I find one option could be the maximization, because when you want to do something, there are two ways, like to save resources, to get resources. Either you got something empty, so either to bring things from outside and put it in, or you look at this thing empty and see what can I do first so that I reduce the need to make it full, like make it smaller the need, and or how can I use what's inside, even if it's air, to fill it. So from the perspective of maximization, we started developing that kind of tools to help the art and art community, not only in the MENA, because the concept actually, we realized it in the process of putting it in place that it applies to everyone. So one of those maximization approaches and tools we have developed, it's a new thing. We just finished it like 2-3 weeks ago, the platform. It's called Artnstay. Art, I will write it in the chat. Artnstay.com. Oh, and it's the A is missing. Sorry, Artnstay. Sorry, because I have a problem with my computer. It's upside down. Art and yes, thank you very much. And then the idea, to make it simple, the idea behind Artnstay, it's like the Airbnb, but for the art spaces. So I was observing, he said, okay, what are the resources that someone in the cultural sector, in the global south, with very limited resources have and can maximize? And when I looked at the business models of many art institution or organization or business, I saw like a repetitive model, which is the space that it's hybrid or diversified in its activities. So you have an art center, there are classes, but there is a space for residency, a small room or a small studio, etc. And then I figured out that those small spaces for residencies are actually never being used the whole year. Like in the best cases, because also the residency system in many cases, in the majority of cases, function on a grant basis. So in the best case scenario, you got your residency used, your small room used or occupied, best case scenario, 3 months a year. The rest of the year, that room is empty. So the Artnstay allows you to put that space when it's empty, not occupied by artists, at disposal with a price to the wider community, which is, or people not necessarily in the art, people who like the art, who are supportive of the art, who like me, for example, I travel a lot, and I'd rather 100 times sleep on the floor in a small room with no comfort, just a mattress and mosquito nets, and give the money to an art space than being in a Sheraton or in a Hilton. And this community exists. We are very, very, very many people in this case. Even beyond that, the people with the art and love art creativity, and they travel with kids, for example, they'd love being an art space where you just get out from your room and you are surrounded with artists, or you can see a rehearsal, or there is a workshop for painting and you can join, or you can do things, you can discuss. It's 100 times more interesting than being in those aseptic soulless with no soul spaces or big hotel places. So we have created that Artnstay, and more. The Artnstay is really solidaire. There is a lot of solidarity in there because the payment mode on the Artnstay is not only money. So, for example, you create your profile on the platform either as a host or a guest. Guest when you want to book, and the host if you are the owner of the space, the owner of the space. So you could create a process. Okay, I have a studio recording, or I have a room, I have a flat. Just like in booking, you see all the information. It had a bathroom, or it's a shared thing, blah blah blah. But at the end, when you choose payment mode, you have many options. You have money, so credit card, bank transfer, blah, blah. You can say, I also accept skills exchange. So, for example, if I go to Mali and I do fundraising training and I want to stay in Mali for a week, I can contact you on Artnstay. Said, okay, I'd like to stay in your studio or flat, and an exchange of like 4 or 5 days stay there. I am happy to do a fundraising training for 3 days to your community, to your staff. You can even monetize it. Like, for example, okay, you gather people and everybody pays 10 or 20 and you get the money, and I do the training. It's a win-win, and it's really nice. There is another option also. It's in terms of donation. And we thought of this option because we realized that in many countries, there may be a legal issue towards renting those spaces against money, because there will be a problem with the tourism law and competition with the hotels. And we said, and we just also realized that many of these all art spaces are either run by NGOs, or even if they are private for-profit status, they are linked to an NGO. So we can solve this legal problem and say, don't pay me money, make a donation to the NGO, but actually the money comes back and support the activity of the center. So, and the cherry on the top is the Artnstay is meant not only to help art spaces maximize or generate income and resources for themselves, but even also to regenerate resources for the whole community, because we decided that if this platform works, we would dedicate 30% of the net profit every year to go to create an international fund for the art, and then it gives grant. And that's the power for us, because it's going to be our fund. It's going to be not me, because this fund will be created and there will be an independent committee from people around the world who manage that. But I mean, as a community, we will decide what to do with it. We will decide, even we decide without application. I want to give it. It's my money. Nobody is going to ask me what to do with it. If I want to experiment, I don't have to judge, to justify how many beneficiaries, what's the impact, what's the return on investment. If I want to just give money to burn it in an art experimental thing, I do what I want. So that's the double, that's the alternative models of resourcing the cultural creative sector. And I do honestly believe that we really need to do more of these kind of things, because we tend as a sector, and that's worldwide. I just realized that it's not specific to the global south. There is a lot of reliance on grant as a type of resource, while your sustainability depends on your capability to diversify your resource. I'm not saying that grant system should not exist or should be stopped. No, at the opposite. It's really important, and it's fundamental that public money stay there and keep funding with the public money the art, because it's an essential service, same as education and health. So it's a right, it's a human right. But what is not good is that we depend a lot, and in many cases only, on that type of resources. That is not good for no one. It's not good for the government, because at the number of which is actually good. This is what we want, right? That there are more and more people working in the art. So if there are more and more people working in the art, the government will have more and more pressure and giving grant to everyone. And the dependency, like if you only depend on one type of support, one type of donor at a certain number of years, they said, okay, what about the comer? If the government is supporting you for 15, 20 years, there is the new generation coming. They deserve also, they have also the right to access these public resources, same as you. So instead of fighting against each other and being, this is like, and this is what's happening. Like we like kind of, I don't like the word, but to cannibalize each other, try to work together to find a solution that satisfies the need of each other. So that kind of solution is when Artnstay is one of it, which leads me to the other platform we organize. It's called the CCIBoost, Culture Creative Industries Boost. The same as when the Artnstay creates new and generates independent, renewable, sustainable income for the sector, the CCIBoost works to create the opportunity, as I said, to connect and advocate and make our sector or the operators in that sector visible to those who support them or fund them, or those who are skeptic, just watching and what is it, how? So the CCIBoost is a platform where you can enter and you create a profile as a freelancer or an NGO or an enterprise, but only in cultural creative industries. And you just, it allows you to have like a vitrine of your portfolio, your services, your work. And maybe I can share my screen, because I'm scared of the internet. Sometimes it's not so good. We are on this. Let me show you the Artnstay very quickly before I move. I forgot. So this is the prototype version. It's simple. It works like the same. It works like Airbnb. We just started. If you can help me a lot, if you can create your profile, test it. Now we are. It's not so you cannot start pay and sell, but we would really like to have your feedback. If you can just create a profile, because it's not perfect yet. It's the first. So you say, oh, this is information is not useful. Maybe you should also add this because we need to know about it. Oh, this is not good. This is good. So please, please, please help us create your profiles, share with people who have this kind of spaces, and we would love to hear back from you. Now the CCIBoost. So this is it. So the CCIBoost, it connects culture creative actor, entrepreneurs. Oh, something is wrong with the internet. Yeah, it's coming. With their investor funder. So you create a profile of your enterprise or your activity. It becomes a portfolio for you. Everyone can see what you do, your business, what you sell, your services, well, what you produce. And then you can, and then the other hand, there are the investors, the funders, the supporter who can enter with the profile of investor. And those people can directly see you and connect with you on the platform about whether they want to fund you, they want to know about you more. Also, it's a peer-to-peer support platform, like others who work in the creative sector may hire you, contact you for your services. You can exchange even services on the platform. For example, I do fundraising, but I don't have, for example, someone to do graphic design for me or to do my videos. I can come to see you on the platform and say, you know what? I am poor, you're poor. What I have is my knowledge, what you have is my knowledge. That's exchange our skill. I do the fundraising for you. You do the video making for me. So that's a way. And also it has, but the most importantly, beyond the fact that connect to the donor, it's the creation of statistics. We have, when you create your profile on the CCIBoost, it's a little bit long, of course. There is like 30 questions to fill, but those questions help instantaneously with an algorithm on the platform, transform your answer on global statistics. And those statistics are shared on the platform, open source to anyone. Why it's open source? Because that's the most important thing when you do fundraising. You have data. For example, me, when I do advocacy and try to convince new investors, to convince some ministry who they have a special program, I say, oh, don't forget the cultural creative sector. I am not credible and I am not convincing because I'm not backed by evidence. I'm not backed by data. Of course, I know that our sector, it's not only about its economic data, and I say it again and again, yes, it's not that. And we should not only resume it in that, but when it comes to funding, for example, a certain type of resource, when it comes to come to a bank, I cannot convince him if I don't have a minimum of data. So the CCIBoost helps generate that data. It's going to be because it has been done. Some researches have been done, the UNESCO research, the Ernst & Young data, but these are static. They're done once and they are published in, in a PDF or in a book, and they become obsolete in 6 months. You know how fast our sector today, thanks to the technology, the changes in 1 year, the whole landscape, the whole ecosystem could change. So the CCIBoost allowed to have this instantaneously updated system, because every time you update your profile, you change something in your profile, the data are changed. They also even help you when you write your proposals, help you when you do your business models, help you when you do your forecast of possible customers, the market, the partners. It's really, it also guides cultural policies, because you have an idea of the weight of the sector. It helps advocacy, because it's not the same when I go and see Ministry of, I don't know, trade or whatever in my country and say, I heard you have a new program to support small enterprise and freelancer entrepreneurs. Where is the share of the CCI sector? You will look at me. I'm not going to do special program for 10 enterprises. And he would be right, because I would have nothing to answer to back that. But if I come and say you, hey, we are 5,000 enterprises, or if we are 5,000 freelancers, do something for us. You have to do something. We wait something in the ecosystem. So it's important, whether we like it or not. I think we need to find a balance between what we prone as economic value of our sector, and also what we prone and what we should also fight for as our impact, social health, mental health, human, and well-being, that are much difficult, like the quantitative part of our work, much difficult to quantify, but we need those minimum data to at least engage with that part or that kind of partner or supporter or funders we have. So again, also I invite you, the CCIBoost is really great because it's worldwide, like Artnstay. So the data, when you sort or you want to search for people working in that sector, you can filter, sort by country, you can sort by region. So very easily you can find the statistics for your country. You can also look for enterprises in your region, if they are there, or freelancer or peers who are there. So now the third alternative, it's not actually alternative, but it's more into advocacy, and we call it donor stewardship or donor attraction or investor attraction. Because as I said, resource mobilization, most of the case, people think it's about, proposal writing and grant. I always say, as a professional, 80% of my skills and energy are absolutely not into proposal writing, they are in donor engagement. Meaning the effort and the effort to secure a revenue. I mean, writing it, looking for application on the stuff, it's maybe 10%, and 90% of the work is about donor engagement. It's about positioning yourself. It's about establishing a trust and a partnership relationship with your supporter. And that takes time. And that it's not about writing a proposal, just sending it. It's the dialogue, showing the way, understanding each other. Dialogue is not the only one way, because we tend to think that, oh, they don't understand us. There is a lot of education to be done to investors and supporters, but actually there is also a lot of education to be done for us. We have a lot of misperception. We have a lot of wrong understanding. I give, sorry, someone, right? I can't read because I'm screen sharing. I'll read the questions later. So a misconception from our side, for example, I like when I heard it also just yesterday in the discussion I had in the WOMEX. Yeah, the donor, they don't understand what we want to do. They always ask for these conditions, blah, blah, blah. They have their agenda. And I said, seriously, everybody has an agenda. And if a donor or an investor doesn't have an agenda, that worries me, because that means they don't think of what you're doing, what they are doing, and why they are doing it. The agenda, having an agenda, it's not negative, it's in its essence, because it's actually having a motivation. And everything you do in your life is motivated by something, is motivated by goodwill, motivated by good intention, motivated by bad intention. But having an agenda itself, it's neutral. It's what are the motivation behind the agenda, what's the problem. So saying that these donors open a call for proposal because they want to push, I don't know, that kind of thinking in the society, it's their right, it's their positioning. Why it's good when it's someone pushing for something that aligns to our thinking, and bad when someone else. We're in democracies, right? So both, everyone has to exist. However, it's up to you then to choose which partner you want to work with. So that's one misperception. The second, also another example of misperception. We complain all about the complexity of the grant and the paperwork from the government. I say, guys, I am totally fine with that, because that's public money. So, and the other one, it's citizen taxpayer. So how can you be consistent when at the same time you're asking the same institution to be very rigorous and responsible and accountable about what they do with your tax, and at the same time you ask them to just give money and don't control? So that makes sense that there's a lot of control and a lot of things, because we call it in my jargon of fundraiser, it's the institutional funding. Institutional funding is complex and must stay complex. Where the problem is that you depend only on public grant. There is your problem. That is a problem with your resource mobilization strategy. It's not a problem with the tool itself. The grant is the mechanism through which this donor channel the resource to this beneficiary. It could be a grant, it could be a loan, it could be technical assistance, it could take a lot of channels. So the grant, and when it comes from one type of donor, which is the institutional donor, it's meant to be complex, because the money comes from a certain type of resources that imposes that kind of management for these resources. But if you get the resource from, for example, a philanthropist, he's the only one accountable. It's his money. He doesn't have to explain to anyone what he wants to do with it. So it's fine, it's logical, it makes sense that he just give it the way he wants to give. And that's why in one ecosystem to become viable, it has to have this diversity of funders and diversity of resources to become viable. I identify 5, I call them the minimum requirement for a viable financial ecosystem for the ICCs. One is the diversity, transparency, accessibility. Accessibility has 2 levels, because what's the point of having resources available there and putting systems or not putting system to making them accessible? So accessibility is access to information, because if you have funds and nobody knows about it, what's the point? And the second is the mechanism should be, or the accessibility mechanisms and everything should be adapted to the target so they can access that resource. So I said transparency, diversification, accessibility. Oh, I forgot the 2 others. I wrote them. They came to my mind yesterday. Sorry, so 3, there are 4. Accountability. And I think the 4th one was complementarity. So because they have to complement all those resources, they have to be complementary to each other. So and that's the idea behind creating those spaces now for the 2 community, us and them, to sit and talk to each other, to know each other, to understand each other. So one of the tools we use to advocate, to influence, and to bring in donor into our ecosystem is the RMD, the Resource Mobilization Digital. The RMD has a story, because it started on a face-to-face, and we tested the concept in Tunisia, on the ecosystem in Tunisia. I used to organize every year over the last 3 years an event within a big festival in Tunisia, called the Carthage Theatre Days, which is one of the biggest theater festivals in the Arab world. I offered to organize one day called the Resource Mobilization Info Day. Yeah, it was long, like I'm very bad in marketing and at the beginning, now I'm getting better. So the concept is simple, was to gather all the supporting ecosystem for the culture creative sector in Tunisia together for have like a half a day or a little bit more than a half a day. And the program was organized over two parts. Part one is a plenary, 1 hour, during which every year we choose a topic that is related to resource mobilization for the art. So year one, for example, in Tunisia was the sponsorship law. There was a very new law, it's called La Loi du Mécénat, that people knew, especially for the art, that very people knew about it. They're having a hard time using it because the legal and the paperwork. So we invited people who knows it very well to explain to us what is it, how to access it, how to benefit from it, etc. So after the plenary, the program it's followed by 2 hours of speed meetings. And then we move to a big room, which is full of tables. In every table, we invited a funder, a supporter, an incubator, a technical assistant, whatever resource that are there in Tunisia specific or open to the culture creative people. And this representative of their organization or funds, they sit in the table and they hold speed meeting round. Every round lasts 30 minutes. The first 15 minutes, it's the donor or the investor or the incubator who is explaining what they offer, why they are doing it, who are the profile, the partnership of people they're looking for, why, etc., etc. And then the last like 10, 15 minutes left, it's the 7 or 6 artists or creatives or entrepreneurs or worker in the art have the opportunity to ask him clarification questions, having a small dialogue. And once the 30 minutes are over, the donor or the investor stays in his table, he doesn't move, but the 6 people around him, the artists and creatives, they move to another table and the guy will welcome another group. So after 2 hours, the attendees of the event may have met with 5 to 6 funders / supporter and may have knew about 6 or 7 resources available for them out there. The other side, the donors, the investors or the funders may have at least been in contact with 20, 30 art workers. They have discovered specific projects, things happening. And it was really nice. So the year one, of course, the concept was so new. I had like, okay, maybe 20 people attending. And then the second year, word of mouth. All this is word of mouth, no communication, no things. I told you I'm really bad in communication. So it was like 60 people. The third year, 150, the room was completely full. And you can watch the video on the Culture Funding Watch YouTube channel on the last face-to-face RMD, Resource Mobilization Info Day. It was amazing because the third edition, remember the plenary we organized. In this plenary, that year, the topic was not about a support mechanism that is dedicated to art, but the support mechanism that is not dedicated to art, but the art can benefit from it, but no one think about it. I think you're all familiar with the concept of corporate social responsibility. So in Tunisia, there is a law that says that for big companies, that they have every year to allocate 1% of their net profit to put in social projects for the community. And then it's amazing because this is open renewable resource because it's every year. And it's really important to encourage this kind of resources because they are local resources. These in my country, they will be always there. See, this is a very smart way to generate revenue for social activity that are domestic, not international, not comes from abroad, which will stop if there is a crisis like the COVID has shown. These are our shields. This is your shield in your ecosystem. It's your local funder and supporter. So these guys don't know about us. And us, we don't even think of them as a source of resources. So I invited, I organized a plenary about what is the RSE, corporate CSR. And then I invited 5 or 6 the biggest companies in Tunisia, like big money. The director of CSR to come and talk to them, to us. Of course, they were intrigued. What is it? And they didn't realize that And when they came, that room full of 150 people, they were like, wow, it was really for them. And I invited them. It's not to explain. I wasn't interested in the RSO because I know the RSO I can read, and my people, my community, I can vulgarize it and do, some Zoom, and everybody will hear about it. But what I wanted is to bring these people to open their eyes, to say there is a whole world, there is an economic impact, there is things happening. When you think of investing your 1%, not only in agriculture and in charity, there is the art, and they do a lot of good thing for the society. And I really invite you to watch the video of the last resource mobilization Info Day, and listen to the director of CSR of Orange. Orange is one of the biggest telecommunication company, French-based, implemented also in Tunisia. He said for him, literally, it was a mind-blowing and eye-opening for him. And in his speech in the plenary was saying, where are you when I am drafting my giving strategy through the CSR? Why don't we hear about it? Why don't you reach out to us? So that way we create, like we are opening tabs, because when you talk about resource mobilization, most of the cases, we only talk at the end of the process. Look for the application. Yeah, open more calls and give more money. But the real work is making sure that the debit, the tab from the first is open before fighting for the drops coming out of it. And this is back what I said earlier, like 90% of my work is about this, because making sure that there is something coming out from the tab. After that, who's gonna get it? It's secondary, because it's always better to fight for 500 liters than for 1 liter. And then life of everybody is gonna be easier. Instead of fighting against each other or competing against each other, then we're together to making the pie bigger. And the RMD is really fun. I mean, and then the idea, when of course the COVID arrived, it's impossible for us to do this event on face-to-face, like 150 people in the same room. No way the Tunisian government would allow it, and then no way I would do it. And then we were stuck. We said, oh, like everybody, it's dead this year. There will be no resource mobilization Info Day, until I bumped into a platform which is amazing. I just love it. It's called Airmeet. And I just, the idea, like everyone said, wow, this is the way to internationalize the concept of resource mobilization Info Day. And it became the resource mobilization Digithon. So the Digithon, it's this concept of speed meeting with the donor, bringing all the people together, but in a virtual space and over 24-hour nonstop, because since it became global, so with the different time zone, there were all the time there were people. So the RMD was divided in 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, which is the backbone, is this speed meeting, as I explained it in the resource Info Day. So we managed together for this first edition of the RMD, 70 art funder from all over the world, funder, investor, supporter from worldwide. And there were more than 700 people attending those speed meetings. There were over 400 speed meeting rounds on the 24-hour. Parallel to the speed meeting, there is a booth, a virtual booth area. So we launched the call for application, and we selected best 50 projects, art and creative projects, and we gave them for free virtual booths in the event. And the booths are amazing because it's like in real life. Like you can customize it, you put your videos, you put your social media links, you put your brochures, and you have a table which is actually a virtual room. When, like in real life, when someone comes in your stand or booth and would like to ask you or talk to you, just click in the chair and it opens a Zoom, like here, a video conference, and they can talk to you about what you do and then do your business if there is business or something, or exchange or partnership. It was really nice. And the third pillar is the usual webinars, trainings, master classes, but all around resource mobilization. So we had a debate from, we identified the rise in new philanthropies network. Like there was the African Philanthropy Forum, the Arab Foundation Forum, there is the GIA in the US. So we invited the CEOs of those organizations and telling them, where do the CCI stand with your philanthropies people network? How to make us more attractive to them? Where are we for them, etc. There were on the investment, there were debate on, I don't remember many. There are master classes on fundraising development, there is ideation. There are many nice stuff. So that's the ARAM Digital. You can see it on the website, the video at the end. It was really, really fun. And now we're hoping to do it every 2 years. So the big global RMD is going to be biannual, like a biennale. But in between, and this is also open to you guys if you're interested, we take the concept local. So we do RMD Tunisia, RMD Germany, RMD France, and then we explore our ecosystem, know more our people, talk more to our support community, and then after 2 years, we bring all these people together on a global gathering. So, for example, the good news, just today, I was working on maybe in January, the RMD Senegal is happening, and I think the RMD India is in the pipeline. So it was really fun. And again, it's a call for you guys, if you wanna, we can work together on the RMD Germany. So very quickly, these are the alternative resource mobilization. And as I said from the beginning, resource mobilization, it's not only about getting the money, it's all this, it's positioning, it's advocacy, it's financial resources plus in-kind. So I will read the question now. Can you tell us about the success story of a project that became sustainable over time and how it happens? I can give you mine. I mean, this CFW, I started from scratch, for zero. People don't really understand what I do. But what I did is going very slowly. I do really believe that sustainability, it's not about raising a lot of money at the beginning, because I could have done it. I'm a professional in fundraising. I write a proposal in 24 hours. I swear to God, I can write you a proposal in 24 hours. But that's not sustainable. Having money, it's not becoming sustainable. And the sustainability, it's a trust, it's a reputation, it's a quality of work that you build and you show before people come and fund you. For example, I can give you an example. I never approach my current donor or potential one, a donor or investor, where my first meeting or my first contact with them is giving me money. I never done that. I never do it. I could be in relationship with a funder or a donor or an investor for 2 years before I ask for anything. And then actually, I don't ask. I wait for them to propose. What I do is I give before I get. So, for example, a foundation or an institutional funder, I know what they want, what they need that I could share. Because before asking people to share with me, I have to be generous myself. And we all have something to give. We all have something to share. So find what you have, you can offer to share with your potential partners. And then you build that relationship. For example, that was a private foundation. What they wanted is to know what are the needs. So I gave them all the data I have. I do researches and I give for free the data. I said, okay, I know you're interested. Here is, you want to know these kind of things. You want to develop your grant making strategy. Okay, I know this foundation from somewhere in the world. They have experience. I connect you with them. They can help you, etc. This is what I gave. I gave networks. I gave connections. I gave advice. And now they can themselves, after 2 years, when they came to say, okay, I have an idea project, I want to bring you as a partner. And they said, oh, no, we don't want to sign one grant with you. We want to sign a framework so that when you come with any idea, you don't have to apply. It's a 2 years thing. You come, you tell me it's approved and done. We don't want to go through the selection process with you. It's them who propose that, not me. And that's something really good in partnering. I can give another example. One of my clients, same, for year one, we didn't go for application. For year one, they were positioning on the service they're doing. They were showing they're doing it very well. They were building reputation. They're giving advice about that. And then the first application in an EU grant, they got it. They got 50, I think they got like 50,000 euros to do what they used to do, because there was this trust, because they took time to very well think what they want to do and how they do it and with whom. And I'm very proud of them, because now they are really, really very well positioned. Like they became a good player in the ecosystem where they are. But honestly, in terms of accompaniment and funding, I didn't do a lot of clients because my growth was slow. So I choose that because I could have hired very quickly with lots of funding, hired 15 professional fundraiser, and we can bring money to everyone. I will have yes, big reputation. That company brings you money, but I don't want to be the company that brings money, because that's not the thing. That's not what I want. I want to be the company that brings sustainability. So I want to talk about after 4 or 5 years to see my people, my community, my friends, my client, they are big fishes, or they exist, or they continue. It doesn't have to be a big fish, but they continue, they have continuity. They're not up and down, and they're not surviving, and they are not in miserable situation. They are comfortably doing, and they will be there for the next 15 years. That I cannot build 1 or 2 years. So I do a lot, it's like more one-to-one. And I am like you guys, I'm a small structure. So I cannot scale up a lot of tailored support, because it takes a lot of human resources, takes a lot of time and capacity. So very quickly, that's what I do. These are some of the alternative things I do. I don't know if there are questions. I'm happy to answer. I think we're okay. Oh, that's great. Voila. If I can, here's a question. So visit the CFW website and subscribe to our newsletter. So whenever, I forgot another baby thing. I always forget. What's needed to build sustainability? I think time and working on mixing the resources. So from the start, you plan to see, okay, at the beginning, everybody starts with the grant. That's the normal. Because if we start our activity on secure war grant, that's great, because we are in the beginning, right? But what is problematic is to get stuck on that business model. So that after 5 years, you are still functioning on grants and you are working with 1 or 2 supporters. That is a killing. That's the opposite. So what you should do, it's every time, in everything and everyday work, you plan for diversifying resources. You plan for engaging with different supporters. And that is something you don't do when the money is over. You do it all the time. It's in your ways of working. It's not when you get a grant, you get busy and doing that project. And then when the money is no more there and you are like, we don't have money, or we don't have resources, know what to do. No, it's while every day, while you're doing this activity of today, it must have the seeds for your activities of tomorrow, or for your donor engagement or investor engagement tomorrow. I give an example. When, for example, you're giving a festival or you're organizing a conference, try to always involve not only your current donor or the people who have supported the event, try also to involve those who might be or your target or you want to work with later. Invite them. Invite them, talk to them. That's important. Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't see the question. Can you mention again the platform you found that helped you make this digital event? It's Ermit. I'll write it for you. Yes, and if you guys want to contact, just contact me too, because we became really friends. I just love what they do. So I can negotiate good rates for you. So you can say it's from Ouafa, or you say it's Ouafa sent us from Culture Funding Watch, they know. I will write it here, airmeet.com. Okay. Second question, how many people are you working with on your team? We are, okay, there is me, Sofiane, Khouloud, Sabeh, Mahdi. We are 5 now, and I'm soon recruiting someone. But for a good question here also, how to make resources. See, for in your mind, when you say, okay, I wanna increase my team, right? And then Usually, our way of working before was, okay, let's get a grant to hire someone, right? Then no, what I did, and this is again about positioning. What I did, and I learned the lesson. There is this, have you heard, and I am sure there are some like this in Germany, the placement program and the fellowship placement programs for students, like the Erasmus staff. So you can subscribe in this program as a host organization, and you get highly skilled people that are paid correctly through those schemes. You're not making volunteers and exploiting them, etc. So there is a kind of, and this is a program in the Middle East, it's called Lazard Fellowship. I heard about it. And I made the mistake the first time that I applied without approaching the organizer at all. Like they didn't know us. I just applied like everyone, because they opened the call for host organization and also open call to select the student, and then they match them. So the first time I didn't do any donor engagement. I just applied. Of course, I haven't been taken because first, I'm competing with big NGOs and things in Tunisia. And second, nobody understands what I do. I mean, it's fundraising for the art. What? So the next time, what I did, it's like 1 month before they opened the call, I looked through my network and I said, who knows the guy who runs this thing? And I got his number and I told him, oh, we are organizing a debate about resourcing the third sector, like civil society, and I want you to come and present your program. And after his presentation, I got him for 15 minutes because he was interested in, wow, Ouafa, what you do? And of course, the next month when I applied, they were very happy to place their fellows with us. And this year is the second year we're having a fellow with them. So, and it's good because people have a salary and they have a full-time staff that is paid. So he's motivated, he has his rights, and I pay zero. And it's even more efficient because if, let's say I secured this position through a grant instead of through a fellowship program, what's going to happen? I will have to write a proposal, and then I will have to write a report and put invoices, lots of energy. For this, nothing. I just applied. It's like it was a Google form, done. One meeting with the fellows to tell them, because it's matching things, so I have to pitch also my organization to the fellows. And it's one document to be signed. That's it. No paperwork, no invoices, no reports, no audits, nothing. And that's nice. So how can we get in touch with you to work on RMD? Yeah, sure. I will write my email here. It's info@Culture Funding Watch. And please write me anytime. I would love to hear from you about the RMD. It's really fun. Culture Funding Watch. Any other questions? Okay, there is another Q&A. Fundraising and sustainable projects development can be a lot of work, yes, and a lot of potential disappointment, yes. Do you have any advice for fundraising burnout? Listen, don't beat yourself about it and don't be scared about it. Just accept it. I worked for big NGOs, like who have, I can tell you, one of the NGOs I worked for, the fundraising department was 700 people, okay? We raise around 400 million euros a year. And when we do at the end of the year, our department, like, you know, our KPIs and the success, and if we reach 20% globally, we make a party. If you reach 20% of success rate on application. So that's normal. I mean, if you accept, I mean, you understand this, you psychologically leave it better, that you know that when you apply, success rate is just 20%, you work on it. Usually we have like a very rough ratio. We say, this is the big machine, doesn't really apply on our sector, honestly. Yeah? But for the other sectors, we say, if you want to secure a certain amount of money, you need to send out 3 times in proposals or projects or partnerships or investments, 3 times that amount outside. Again, the solution to increase your success rate or success likeliness chance is the engagement, is the working on the other side, on your potential funder or investor, through communication, through advocacy, through positioning. That's it. There is no other way, other better way to increase your success rate. And of course, also, I mean, the success rate, of course, is related to your capacity of correctly assessing your likeliness of success. For example, and sometimes in desperate situation, we just apply when, honestly, if you look through it, you see that you're not the target of that call or that opportunity, but just because we are desperate, or because we are, sometimes this is very, syndrome is very common in the art sector. We are not only, but even human being in general, we say always, we understand what we want to understand, and we read what we want to read. So, and when we are under pressure and this desperate situation, we tend to do that a lot. So for example, the call for application, the title is call for cultural project in Tunisia. In most of the cases, people would, okay, culture, I am in the culture, so I apply. Yet, when you read the detail of the guidelines, it's not really about every art culture, it's about music. And then you said, yeah, I'm the music. Now, if you read a little bit more the guidelines, it's in the music, yes, but it's not a production, it's for the post-production. But it says music. He said, yeah, but we don't really, and because we are desperate, we want to try to fit, we try to craft it, and it's, yes, my project does this actually with the guideline. Oh, come on. The evaluator is an expert and in what sector, I mean, in the call. So he will quickly see that you're just trying to fit. It doesn't make sense. So that also helped, like, don't knock the wrong door. And that's the idea, by the way, behind the RMD. It's really reducing this syndrome of knocking the wrong door. Because we are desperate, oh, they give money. I heard that the foundation, they funded a friend, I don't know, working in what, and somewhere in the art, so they should fund me too. And not necessary. And maybe the friend, that activity is specific to something they have done. So, but you're not, or your idea, that one is not interest for that supporter or funder. So the RMD helps you understand that, save your time, save the disappointment. That's it. If there are any questions. Thank you. Then, so thank you, and I hope to see you and follow us on the RMD, because the global is online and it's free, so you can join. Thank you again. Forgot, like last time, I forgot to see the ODlive. That's the latest thing we've done. It's an online app that allows live streaming of the spectacle music performance, but we target the small bars, the small spaces, because we realize that young artists and beginner, that's all, that is only the space, the only space for them to start. So it's like talent support. So the platforms allows the visibility, but also they can make money out of it on live and on streaming. By either they can sell. For now, we don't sell tickets, but you accumulate points. And the points, there is an ODlive boutique where you can convert your point on something. It could be a musical instrument, it could be gifts. And the idea of the boutique, it's more for the audience, and especially for the youth, So it's a kind of a gamification, because what will make the difference between our platform and our streaming platform and the application, app, and the 15 zillion application or platform that merged during the COVID, is this gamification. So the people, the more they watch, they have points. So the more they accumulate points, they can convert in gifts. It could be a concert, real concert tickets, could be musical instrument, could be phones, whatever. We will work with the other partner or sponsors to put gifts on the boutique, so people will be motivated to watch performance, to be on the platform, to be in the bar, watch the bar soiree, so that we can help bring more money and visibility to the artists through the virtual world. So that's the latest income generating tool we are testing. Please use it and test it and tell us if it's working or not. Voila. I'm over this time. Thank you again so much. Thank you for hosting me. And I hope to see you all again in whatever CFW is doing, and maybe in Tunisia. Come to see us.